Um, Today, the president will be in Springfield, Illinois, to talk about what he sees the need for a better politics. We hear this a lot from the president. He tries to shift blame to the process, absolve himself of any participation in the bitterness in our politics, and he talks about the world as he wishes it would be, not as it actually is. But last night, they were on pace for a record turnout in New Hampshire. They had record turnout in Iowa last week as well. Our politics is in good health. Americans cannot wait to elect a new president. Americans want progress on the issues of the day. They don't want finger pointing. They can't wait to move past a president who disregards their anxiety and glosses over their challenges that they face every single day. Just look at the president's budget that he just put forward. It's not so much a budget as a manual for the progressive left's vision. Higher taxes, more debt, bigger government. In fact, at the center of his budget is a tax that would raise the average cost of gasoline by 25 cents a gallon. The president wants, the president expects, he demands that American families pay for his climate policies. The problem isn't politics. The problem is the president's ideas. The problem is the bitter polarization that comes from these ideas. American-made energy may be our greatest source potential. American-made energy lowers costs, helps families keep more of their hard-earned paychecks. American energy creates jobs. But he wants to tax it, and he wants to keep it in the ground. We're not going to let that happen. We are going to offer a bold agenda to protect jobs and maximizes America's energy potential. We're going to apply our principles to the problems of the day. We're going to offer the country a very clear choice. We're going to give people solutions. We're going to run on those solutions so that if we are given the privilege of winning the election based upon these solutions, we will put these solutions in place and get our country back on track. This is what people are hungry for. This is why you have record turnout in places like New Hampshire and Iowa. We believe better ideas, not better politics, but better ideas are needed to get our country back on track, and that is what we are dedicated to.
Well, I guess you were the few that didn't go to New Hampshire, huh? Good morning. I want to touch on a couple different items. The first one I'd like to touch on is to follow up what the speaker said. Budgets are really the blueprint of what future you look for. This is the last budget by the president. If you look at the history of the president's budgets, there's only 2 Democrats who have ever voted for one of his budgets. So not only is he out of step with America, he's out of step with his own party. I come from a place in California that we're an agriculture and oil and wind and solar economy. If you look across America, there's 100,000 men and women out of work in oil-related business. The president isn't listening to them, and he probably has not toured these areas, and they're all across this country. Because he proposes a new tax. And what does it do? It only harms America. It makes us more committed to resources from outside of America than from within. If we become energy independent, we're only stronger. But the president has missed the mark. I look at this budget now, and I wonder if he could even get 2 Democrats to vote for it.
Good morning. When the president released his budget yesterday, there were 2 things that were very clear. The first is that President Obama does not think it's important to balance the federal budget. He has never issued a budget that gets to balance. In his latest budget, never gets to balance. The second thing that's very clear in the president's budget is he doesn't think American families are paying enough in taxes. Over $2 trillion of new taxes are proposed in this budget, including this tax on oil. And let's look at what this tax on oil that President Obama is proposing would do to hardworking families. It would raise over $60 billion a year in new taxes in the price that people pay at the pump. And the president's own administration made it very clear that this would be passed on to consumers all across the country. This would be a new tax that would be paid by hardworking taxpayers who are already struggling with his policies. That's why we have said that the president's tax proposal is dead on arrival in the House. It will not happen because we stand with the American people who think they're already paying too much in taxes, which is a dramatic contrast to the president who thinks Americans are not paying enough in taxes. So there couldn't be a bigger contrast between our two visions. And that's what we've laid out in every budget that we've presented. Every budget we've brought forward since we've been in the House majority gets to balance in the 10-year window and doesn't raise a dime in new taxes. And of course, it shows you. If you want to get the economy moving again, if you want to get this country back to fiscal sanity, not raising taxes is the answer, because the president's proposals have raised taxes every year and never get to balance. The other thing is, I think it's important that we point out and celebrate the historic ruling by the Supreme Court last night. In a 5-4 decision, the Supreme Court blocked the president's latest radical agenda that would increase the cost to American families in their utility bills. This latest attack on American power plants. And it was an important ruling because it protects American families from seeing these kind of cost increases. If you look at just some of the latest EPA proposals, which include the plan that was blocked by the Supreme Court last night, in Louisiana alone, we would see over 16,000 jobs lost. In Louisiana, families alone would see increases in over 20% in their household electricity rates because of these Obama EPA proposals that are coming forward. So what the Supreme Court blocked last night was they blocked any attempt by the president to dramatically raise the cost of electricity rates on hardworking families all across this country.
Good morning. As we go to work on our bold, forward-looking agenda, one priority that we're focused on is restoring we the people and that mandate in our Constitution. We certainly hear the frustration of Americans all across this country. And we know it's because so often the citizens don't feel that their priorities are being reflected by a top-down government knows best approach. That frustration extends all the way to our local deli counters, grocery stores, and convenience markets, whose owners right now are being told what to do with by the FDA, in the form of a 400-page menu labeling rule. So when I think about the local salad bar or sandwich options that are available at the deli, you just imagine all the possible combinations. You're thinking about tens of thousands of different combinations. And here's the FDA telling these businesses that they have to use a one-size-fits-all approach to notify their customers of these nutritional informations. It's another example of a federal agency that is disconnected from its mission. So I'm pleased to join in voting on this legislation, proud to have worked on this legislation in a bipartisan fashion. It's the Common Sense Nutrition Disclosure Act of 2015. We'll be voting on it later this week, and it really returns the decision-making back where it belongs, in this case, with the small business owners, giving them the freedom and the flexibility that they need to provide the best decisions to their customers and their businesses. This is really about trusting Americans through their elected representatives to make the best decisions and fulfill the dreams that they have. It's all part of the choice that we're offering Americans as we head into 2016.
The manna made it to Mass this morning.
I didn't want to leave you alone with the ashes, Paul. I want to thank the Speaker and the leadership team for allowing me to be here today and also offering us guidance on what that bold, new, conservative agenda is going to look like in the future. In a few short hours, President Obama will be in my congressional district, visiting his old stomping grounds at the Illinois State Capitol, talking to many of his former colleagues who are still serving in the Illinois General Assembly. But the President Obama we know today is not the Senator Obama that we knew just a few short years ago. He's changed. When Barack Obama was a state senator, he supported Illinois coal and helping to keep utility rates for so many of my constituents right in central Illinois. But on his march to the presidency, just a few short years ago, he changed his philosophy. And I think this budget that he's put forth today shows what his philosophy's become and how much he has changed. One proposal within that budget that really kind of irks me as a member who worked in a bipartisan way to pass a long-term transportation bill, something that I campaigned on, not necessarily a hotbed of conservatism wanting to pass a transportation bill, but it was important. It's important to the American people to rebuild our crumbling roads and infrastructure. We did this in a bipartisan way, and this president now, because families are enjoying lower gas prices, they're able to pay down their credit card debt. They're able to save for retirement, maybe take a vacation or help their kids go to college. Instead, he wants to double down and raise those gas prices even more on the people that he professes to care about the most. President Obama has changed, and I hope his message of bipartisanship that he wants to give to the Illinois General Assembly today, I hope he heeds it himself when he gets back here. Thank you.
Well done. No, you were late, Luke. Hey, we're going to keep you guys on cue. We're going to start early sometimes. Luke.
You mentioned all that enthusiasm on the Republican side in Iowa and New Hampshire. Do you attribute any of that enthusiasm to Donald Trump?
I attribute to everybody. I attribute to the voters of these states. They are turning out in record numbers on both sides of the aisle. Look, there is a lot of anxiety in America, and it's due. I mean, don't you think that this anxiety that people are feeling is legitimate? Stagnant wages, slow economic growth, terrorism, foreign policy. We don't even really have a foreign policy. So I think people are just really upset about the fact that they think the country's headed in the wrong direction. They think their kids are going to be worse off. And so they are excited about candidates who are talking about a whole range of issues. So, look, I see this turnout as a good thing. I see this country ready for a big change.
And quickly, John Kasich was referred to as the original Paul Ryan. What's your relationship?
I'm good with that. I like John. I was a freshman on the budget committee when John was chairman. So John and I go back a long ways, and he taught me a lot about budgeting, actually. All right. Wait, is anybody else who was here on time? Everybody puts their hands up.
Okay, she loved the reporting here in the hallway.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Feel sorry for reporters.
On the very question that I was asking the chair of the Appropriations Committee, which detained me, are you committed to sticking to the Boehner-Obama agreement, 107.0 trillion in a budget? And if you have trouble passing a budget, not deeming a budget so you can start.
Look, I'm not going to get into all the details about how the budget comes down. This is the familiar conversation. I was chair of this committee for a number of years. We're having the same kinds of conversations with our colleagues about a budget that we have every year. The only difference is we're having it in February instead of April because we want to get ahead of schedule because of the calendar and the fact that we're losing precious weeks in July. So we're simply having the same kind of family conversation about how to proceed with the budget like we have every single year. I'm confident the members will sort this thing out.
But you're not committed to that number from Boehner.
I'm confident we'll get this figured out.
I wanted to follow up on that.
Oh, great. I'm just messing with you.
Said that the budget agreement last year gives us the top line number until he's told otherwise by an act.
Absolutely.
So if
Yeah, we're
he's saying that, how does that fit in?
we believe that in order to have a good working viable appropriations process, we're going to appropriate to these numbers because we have agreement on these numbers. It's very important. We think that the Senate is in a much better place than they ever were so that we can have a functioning appropriations process. And just remember, we as legislators in this branch of government think our primary responsibility is to execute the power of the purse. That is how we do oversight of the federal government. The way we hold the Obama administration accountable is controlling their budget. And that's why having the power of the purse and a functioning appropriations process serves that goal, and that's why I'm confident we'll figure this out. Yeah.
There are defense hawks in your party who want to increase the defense number. Do you think that's fair? Is just increasing?
Oh, I'm not going to get involved in the go-betweens between all. There are a lot of people who want a lot of things in the budget. There are a lot of people who, under this Obama administration, are not happy with the direction we're headed. So there are a lot of different concerns. Most concerns can be accommodated within our budget, and not everybody gets to have what they want simply because Barack Obama is president. Andy.
What do you think about this idea of using this year's budget process to perhaps tee up a reconciliation goal for the next president?
Yeah, you can do that. Not getting into Senate parliamentarian, issues. That I think Reagan did that in '81, if I'm not mistaken. You should maybe look into that. But so I think, knowing the budget process, you can do a reconciliation 2 rounds if you wanted to, because it's the prevailing budget resolution that prevails until a new one replaces it. And in a calendar year, that can happen. So I think that's one of the things that a lot of members are talking about.
Would you support the resources requested by President Obama for Paz Colombia? Any condition for those resources to be approved?
Say that again, please. I apologize.
Would you support the resources requested?
Oh, Plan Colombia. We'll review this. We met with the president last week, the president of Colombia last week. Plan Colombia I see as a success. I think we've made a lot of strides and progress in Colombia. We watch this very carefully. You know, the challenges with FARC is something that we're very interested in because it affects us because of the drug trade. So this is something that we're going to be taking a look at in the appropriations. I would refer you to, look, I'm not the micromanager of the House, I'm the Speaker of the House. So I would refer all of you to the committees of jurisdiction on these questions. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.